I remember walking into my office on the morning of September 11th, 2001, to find everyone huddled around the TV, glued to the news. We didn't get a lot done that day. We mostly sat in silence, trying to deal with it all. I remember the evening of November 4th, 2008, watching Obama give his victory speech on the news, tears of joy rolling down my face. These moments were some of the most profound moments in my life, and I like to think they made me a better person. September 11th, making me realize that life is short, you better get off your ass, because it can change in a heartbeat. And Obama's victory, giving me the understanding that I had no limits to what I could accomplish. And when I discussed these things with people over the years, there was a common thread that watching these events unfold on the news gave us a sense of community. We experienced these things together because we watched them on the news. And never once over the years did I ever think, oh, I don't believe this guy, or that it wasn't untrue. And never once did I question the facts. It's not like that anymore, is it? I think that most people agree that regardless of your political stripes, that the news, politics, and life in general has become very mean-spirited, almost angry in most cases. And I really do wonder, how the hell did we get there? I mean, it's just the news, the events that happened over the course of the day. So I did some digging about what news is. And I learned the modern news broadcast was originally 15 minutes long, and that was it. In the 60s, Walter Cronkite in 60 Minutes brought it up to 30 minutes, and that was long. But the format remained the same all the way to the 90s. There was an anchor, they read you the news, these were the facts of the day. No one really questioned it. But sometime in the 90s, that changed. Cable news became our primary source of finding out what was going on in the world. Now, cable news runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether we want it to or not. And that's a lot of airtime to fill. So what's happened is opinion journalism has filled in the gaps and has slowly risen to become our dominant source of news. Opinion journalism isn't like regular broadcast news. What typically happens is someone will come on the screen, present you with an event, and then, in a few moments, they'll bring someone else on, either to agree or disagree with them. More often than not, they'll bring on a group of talking heads, political pundits, experts, to debate the facts of the event. So we're not told the facts of the event anymore. People come on and they debate it. They create a conflict amongst the news about what you're seeing. And as human beings, we're tribal. We take sides. So in your mind, the news has gone from learning to conflict. What's worse? Right in the middle of a typical news broadcast, and every network is guilty of this, down to CJAD, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they all do it, you will hear this irritating phrase that should upset you and incense you. That's all we have time for. Let's leave it there. We have to move on. Imagine being in the middle of an argument with a friend or your spouse, and right in the middle of it, they go, whoa, babe, stop. We've got to move on. We've run out of time. Let's leave it there. You'd be pissed. You'd be upset. But every time you watch the news, this is what happens. They've created a conflict in your mind and then left it there, unresolved, unfulfilled. Now imagine if we did that in bed. It's the same thing. It's anger. It's a negative emotion. And I think that the modern news cycle has become obsessed with presenting the news as drama, as cinema. So that whenever you watch the news, you become upset because they've understood the very basic concept that rage sells. And ratings are more important than everything. Ratings are more important than the truth, more important than fair and balanced journalism, ratings trump everything. No pun intended. Now, don't get me wrong. I love politics. I love cable news, and I don't think I'll ever stop watching. But I do find it quite confusing that they love showing us the spectacle. They love the story about the cheating president. They love the story about the idiot prime minister in brownface. They love the story of the judge accused of date rape 30 years ago in university. These things sell airtime. They keep us glued to the screen. They keep us from changing the channel. Because deep inside of all of us is a little old lady who likes to gossip. Now, as I said, when I first started watching the news, I found it to be an inspiration. I learned in a very short period of time that we lived in one of the most beautiful democracies in the world. And that was provided by free and honest journalism. But these days, when I watch the news, I don't feel that way. It's like a burning car wreck on the highway. I'm disgusted with myself that I keep staring, but I just can't look away. Modern news has a tendency to hook you in, because I can watch all day, from the morning to the evening. And I don't understand why, because the stories are essentially the same hour after hour. At the top of the hour, they will tease you. Breaking news. Scandal for this person. Who lied? Who did this? But at the end of the day, it's the same story over and over again. There's no payoff. It's all sizzle without the steak. Now, I wonder why this is. And the only conclusion I can come to is the erosion of our civic duty. Because as we sit there on the sofa, watching the news, we feel like we're participating. We feel that we're there in Parkland watching these kids get shot. We're experiencing the events. We feel like we're there in a Women's March on Washington. We feel like we're part of the protest. But the truth of the matter is we're not. We're sitting on our sofa, remote in one hand, cell phone in the other, thinking we're involved in our democracy. Let me tell you, no matter how hard you scream at the screen, or how hard you press that hate emoji or angry emoji on Facebook, you're not part of the conversation. You have no skin in the game. And I think that most TV now has become like sports. We all have our favorite channel. We all have our favorite political party. We all have our favorite pundits. And it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong, whether we think they're crazy or not, because sometimes we do. Whether they're on the left or the right, they all have their crazies. But that's our team, and we're going to follow them no matter what. Now, I think there are solutions to these things. I really do, but unfortunately I've run out of time. So we'll have to leave it there. All right, you guys got me. There are things we can do. Never has the viewing public been so powerful as we are today. I think there are some small things that we can do to improve the politics and the news for everyone. The first thing we can do is learn how to communicate. And by that, I don't mean talk. Because most of the time, talking in politics means I talk to you and I tell you why you're wrong. I'm smart and you're stupid. We know that all just pisses people off. The truth is we need to learn to listen and accept the fact that people are different from us. And regardless of their political stripes, we can be friends with them. I have a very close friend of mine who recently joined Facebook. And that friend has a completely different political opinion than I have. And when I first started seeing his posts, I was upset. I was enraged. I wanted to post evil, mean things about him. I wanted to call him and tell him off, man, what the hell's wrong with you? But then I realized, this is my friend. I talk to him 2-3 times a week. And we've never talked about politics because it was completely irrelevant to our day-to-day lives. And I think that's something that most people don't realize. The stories you see on the news every night are completely irrelevant on your day-to-day lives. They don't matter because most of us talk about what? Our friends, our family, how crazy our kids are, how annoying our spouse is, how bad the last season of Games of Thrones was. Now, so I want you the next time you meet someone new, before you ask about their politics or their orientation, ask them about their kids. Ask them what they like to do. Ask them about their lives. I think you'll make a friend much quicker, and there'll be a lot less anger in your conversations. The other thing we can do, and not everyone's going to agree with this, is you can stand up for the rights of others. Doesn't matter if they're white, black, brown, gay, trans, straight, gun owners. Stand up for their rights. Because rights are fleeting. With the stroke of a pen, you can lose your rights. If you don't believe me, you just have to look. Last year, there was a teacher's strike in West Virginia. The teachers' union were offered a crappy pay raise. But to add insult to injury, they were told that they had to wear a Fitbit if they wanted health insurance. Now, I want you to let that sink in. If I told you that your employer wanted you to wear a Fitbit so that you could go see the doctor, you'd be upset. Well, the teachers didn't accept it. In fact, they got so upset that they galvanized everyone in the school, all school districts. And they stood up for their rights, the rights of the people who worked in the cafeteria, the rights of all the teachers, the rights of the bus driver. And they won because they wouldn't back down. They stood together as a group. Now, just imagine for 1 second if someone had given up on that. Some slimy little bastard had said, we'll take a deal. Those teachers would have lost some rights. And losing a right is a slippery slope. The next thing they could ask for is, well, we're going to tell you what to eat. We're going to tell you how to exercise. We're going to tell you where to go. We're going to tell you who your friends can be and who you can associate with. Rights are fleeting. Stand up for them. Because the day they come for you is the day that you're going to need that person beside you. The last thing we can do is twofold, and this is the important one. The silent majority can no longer afford to be silent. Democracy is a privilege, and it is fleeting. In the United States, in the last election, there were 100 million people who did not vote. And if you ask any one of these people why they didn't get off their asses and vote, they'll tell you, well, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't really count. I can't change anything. The next time someone tells you that, I want you to bop them on the nose and drag them to a voting booth. Because 100 million votes changes policy. It changes governments. It changes countries. More than that, the other side of the coin is participation. And by participation, I mean running for office. Stop letting other people fight your battles. Most people are content sitting on the sofa with the remote in one hand and the phone in the other, railing against the government, instead of standing up, putting their hand up and saying, I can change things. If you don't believe it, ask AOC. Look it up. We as individuals have the power to change things, and we have to. Because in our politics, we don't just need diversity of people, but diversity of ideas. Because for the last 50 years, we have essentially elected the same type of person to office and have expected different ideas, different solutions. Well, that's impossible. It's the very definition of insanity. We need not only lawyers, we need coaches, we need carpenters, union workers, you name it. We need different voices, different ideas, because only then will we be able to have the type of democracy that we really want, where everyone is represented and no one is left on the side. And I can tell you that a lot of people ask me the question at this point, why any of this is important. Well, democracy is fleeting, and it can vanish in a heartbeat. Right now, the world of dictators and strongmen and kings is slowly fading away, but they're fighting like hell to stay in the game. Let's kick them to the curb. Let's kick the strong men out. Let's kick the dictators out. Let's make sure there's never another king. Because if there is, the chance of you losing your right to vote, your right to an abortion, your right to be gay, your right to be black, your right to be a woman, could very easily go away. There's more that I can say, but I've run out of time. So let's leave it there. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.